England is a country on the island of Great Britain, part of the United Kingdom. It has a long recorded history with roots in early medieval kingdoms formed after the end of Roman rule. The name for England derives from the Angles, who were a Germanic people who settled there in the 5th and 6th centuries. Now, imagine telling people, I'm from Sexland. Yes, this actually could have happened. This is not clickbait, it actually comes from the real names of the early Anglo-Saxon kingdoms. So let's talk about how England barely avoided being called Sexland. The collapse of Roman rule in England at the end of the 4th century AD swore in a new era for English history, and the Anglo-Saxon Heptarchy, which refers to the 7 main kingdoms that existed before England unified in 927. These included Northumbria, Mercia, East Anglia, Kent, Essex, Sussex, and Wessex. Note that sex in these names does not pertain to the act, but rather is short for Saxon, who are another Germanic tribe that migrated across the North Sea from continental Europe in the 1st millennium AD. For example, Essex refers to the kingdom of the East Saxons and still exists as a ceremonial county in England today, as does Sussex, which refers to the kingdom of the South Saxons. This also includes Wessex, which is short for kingdom of the West Saxons, and Middlesex, which can refer to the Middle Saxons and was formerly a ceremonial county of the UK until it was abolished in 1965. But technically, if the naming convention had continued, the country uniting them could have actually ended up as Sexland. So West Saxons, South Saxons, East Saxons, you see the pattern. While Wessex did become the dominant kingdom under Alfred the Great and his successors, the term Engleland, which means land of the Angles in Old English, became the standard, not Sexland or anything of that sort. And this is because the Angles were another major Germanic tribe, so instead of there being Anglophone English people from England, we could have had Saxophone Sexish people from Sexland. And England's not the only one that dodged this linguistic bullet. For example, the name for Wales in Welsh, Cymre, comes from the same root as Cumbria, which is derived from the Brittonic Gombrogi, which means fellow countrymen. Now the Y in Cymre represents a schwa, I guess, the mid-central vowel on the IPA chart, which could possibly be anglicized or sexicized as U. So technically, by the same pattern, we could have actually been calling Wales Cumland. Now, if Cumland were to actually exist as a name to refer to Wales, it would have the same exact etymology, mostly, as the county of Cumbria, which actually exists in northern England. In similar fashion, before there was anything called Scotland, that area which corresponds to what is now called Scotland was inhabited by a people called the Picts, and hence it's entirely possible that Scotland could have actually been called Pictland. The name for the country of Scotland comes from the Latin Scotia, which originally referred to the population of Ireland who were Gaelic-speaking Gaels, but this shifted north when Gaelic-speaking peoples then migrated to what is now Scotland. So instead of England, Scotland, and Wales, we could have had Sexland, Pictland, and Cumland, which is probably the world's worst trilogy. So in essence, these early names reflected tribal and linguistic divisions, and as England unified, it just so happened that Engleland, which later became England, became standard. This also holds true for Wales, which got its English name from the Old English Wales, I'm probably fucking mispronouncing that, but whatever, which meant foreigners, and has nothing to do with the Welsh name Cymre. Language evolves in very strange ways, and old names sound funny a lot of the time because of these semantic shifts. So for example, sex and cum, how most of us think about it today, are quite new developments. Cum, in a sexual way, are only really developed starting in the 1600s, and sex came even later, starting in the 20th century. Regardless, if you're English or Welsh, it's entirely possible that you could have been living in a place called Sexland or Cumland. Thank you so much for watching, and peace.